Injiri Boss, Vice President of Public Relations from Waffle House, is here with us tonight. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, I get a kick out of this. When a store moves in, a lot of people look to your restaurants to gauge just how bad things really are. For those who don't know, explain the origin of the Waffle House Index and how it's used.
Well, I have to be honest, it is not entirely ours. Craig Fugate, who was at the time in 2004 the director for the Florida Department of Emergency Management, Florida had been hit by about 4 hurricanes, I believe, that year, and they were pretty bad. And so in trying to determine where to send his team, he tried to come up with something that was very easy for them to follow. And he told them, if you drive past a Waffle House and it's open, keep driving. If you drive past a Waffle House and they're on a limited menu, you can still keep driving, just keep your eyes peeled. But if you get to a place where a Waffle House is closed, that's where you start. And so that was kind of an unofficial way to determine how to get help to the greatest need the fastest. Then when he became the director of FEMA under President Barack Obama, it was something that he continued to use. In fact, it was actually something open to the private sector as a whole, with the idea of giving the private sector an opportunity for leadership in crisis situations, as well as to help the community feel more strongly and feel a lot better about getting back on their feet. When they can see businesses starting to open, they can breathe a sigh of relief. It seems like things are getting back to normal.
Wow, definitely an unusual scale to use, but one that seems to be pretty accurate. How does that make you feel as a company that you're able to kind of play a role in this recovery and response?
We're very proud of the opportunity to do that. Over the years, it's gained, in our reputation. People kind of know the traffic light, if you will, the green, yellow, red. If it's closed, red, run for the hills, that kind of thing. But more importantly, it's important to us because it demonstrates our commitment to the communities we serve. And that includes our associates who live and work in those communities. We want to make sure that while the community has been there for us to support our associates who are working to take care of their families, be a part of the community, enjoy the community spirit, when bad things happen, like severe weather, hurricane, we want them to know that we'll be there to support them and help them get back onto the road of recovery.
Now, when it comes to your locations, whether it be before, during, or after a storm, how does your team decide about whether or not to stay open?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. There's pre-planning long before the storm season hits. We actually get groups of folks together, those who are out in the field, our restaurant leaders, senior management team leaders, as well as a group of individuals here who, during a storm, man what we call our weather center or storm crisis center, which is a converted 3rd floor conference room. But what we do is we make plans. We actually have a playbook that's sent to every restaurant so they know what to do in the event of a storm. That includes information for individual associates to plan for things at their home, let them know the kinds of things they should have available, what they should be thinking about in the event that a storm should hit. After that, it's pre-storm planning. Once we know that there's a storm, we start tracking. We do have some of the same technology that you use to be able to forecast weather. We are able to impose our map of where our restaurants are on top of that, so we can see how the storm is going to progress, try and get a better idea of where the important resources are going to need to be sent. That includes people, power, and food. And then, of course, during the storm, once we know what the impact is going to be, if we know that it's like a category 4, category 5, and there's been evacuation orders, then of course, safety is paramount. That's number one. We want to make sure that our people are able to evacuate safely. But there's a difference in evacuating over to the next town versus evacuating all the way to Montana, for example. So we want to make sure that we have reconvening plans in place once things have died down and it's safe for us to go back in and get our stores up and running. We want to be able to have our people available to work because bills don't stop coming in because a hurricane is struck. The thing about hurricanes that's a little unique is that you can see them coming. Tornadoes, not so much. You may not have as much knowledge beforehand, but we do use the same plan. We do use the same information, resources, communication between our operators out in the field as well as our senior management here, just trying to make sure that they have the best information possible. We've used them as well during the winter cold snaps when, remember back in Texas a couple of years ago, I think, when they had a severe storm and it was so cold and there was, electricity was lost. We had a plan for that. We have different menus for whether we have water, no water, whether we're out of, no electricity, those kinds of things, so that we can still be that beacon of hope, if you will, a place where you can get a warm meal. We've also adapted it for use for things such as when the Braves won the World Series. You have an inordinate number of fans who are going to the games more than usual, and so that sometimes impacts our restaurants.
Let's shift our focus from the customers over to your employees, because when a storm moves through, obviously they're impacted as well. What steps do you take to support them and their families during their time of need?
Okay, again, going back very early on, pre-planning, we have conversations with our associates, provide them with emergency cards so that they can start planning at home, emergency escape routes, having things prepared ahead of time so that they know to have water, all of those things that they might need if they were going to be able to stay in place. Of course, if they're required to evacuate, we want to make sure that they are able to do that safely. But it's important that we have had conversations ahead of time to say, okay, once the storm has passed, how can we reconvene? How can we get the store up and running? But before that, how can we make sure that our associates themselves are okay? So there are things that we do. Part of our what we call jump teams are groups of people who have volunteered to go to the areas that have been affected. They include contractors, people who have knowledge about gas, generators, who have information about construction. And so say, for example, an associate has a tree down across their driveway. It's not unusual for us to get the chainsaw out, break up the trees so that they can get to work. If they have problems with their homes, there's been some damage, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable and their family is safe and secure so that they can very comfortably go to work and be able to continue to care for their family without worrying about how everybody's doing back home. So there's a variety of things that we do to make sure and ensure that our associates are safe and that their families feel safe and secure so that their family member, our associate, can go to work and continue to earn that money to take care of their families.
Wow, I'm sure they are so appreciative to see so much thought and effort go into every element of planning when it comes to storms and disasters. And Jerry Boss, VP of Public Relations from the Waffle House, thank you again and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thank you to all your viewers. We appreciate their business as well.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out these other videos here and be sure to subscribe for new content and the latest weather news from AccuWeather.